girl, Henrietta. Good girl. You want a tummy rub? Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Stories with Henrietta Pussycat. This is Henrietta Pussycat. She likes to listen while I read stories. This story is really cute. I've never read it before, but I love the artwork in it. I've talked about how much I love artwork before. This one has a lot of greenery, and this time of year we're in right now, it's May, and so things are starting to bloom and it's beautiful. So this is called The Curious Garden by Peter Brown. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. If you look at the color scheme, which means the different types of colors, we've got a couple different shades of green and a couple different shades of brown, but that's about it. So that's why this says it was a dreary place. Because even the greens are kind of gray. However, there was one boy who loved being outside. Even on drizzly days while everyone else stayed inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing through his neighborhood. I like to do that when it rains. Do you? Go outside and wear some rain boots and hop in the puddles. Sometimes I don't even use an umbrella, but I like his umbrella. It reminds me of a circus tent. It was on one such morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. The railway had stopped working ages ago, and since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for the curious boy to do. What's Henrietta doing over here? You making it more cozy? Are you digging? Are you digging? I'm reading a story. Are you going to listen? Okay. Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last thing he had expected to find up there, but when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems, but the plants patiently waited while Liam found better ways of gardening. He's singing to his plants. I have a lot of plants in my house, and sometimes I sing to them and talk to them. As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. Look at that. It's so nice. Love those little flowers popping up. Oh, Henrietta got bored. Most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up farther and farther down the tracks and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Liam and the curious garden explored every corner of the railway. Look at that. It's growing and growing. The city doesn't look so dreary anymore. Look at that. What a beautiful field of daisies. And look at this. So there's the old railroad tracks, but instead of rocks and dirt, now there's green and white and orange and purple. It's really pretty. After spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for spring. After 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Winter had taken a toll on the garden, but that's okay, that's natural. Nature does that, right? It's like a bear that hibernates in the winter. The plants go to sleep in the winter to store up their energy for when the sun comes back. But thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. Looks like he's singing to them again, and there's a bird singing along with him. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up farther and farther from the railway and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. The garden was especially curious about old forgotten things. Look at that. It's growing in a car, and this tree is growing out of a broken window. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. Oops. Anybody know what that is under there? It's a stop sign. Can't cover up a stop sign. And what's that? A fire hydrant. He's pulling it off of there because the fire department needs that. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. It's like a little garden in a pot. And that is a whole garden coming out of a wheelbarrow, but it looks like somebody took it. But the most surprising things that popped up were the new gardeners. Do you see what Liam started? All these people love the green plants because their city isn't so dreary. And so people began to garden all over the place, on the rooftops, on the railways, in the parking lots. Wow. Look at this, on the steps. And they're having a picnic. And there's some water, and there's lots of greenery leading to the water. And look at this. Did you know you could do that with shrubs? They carved a moose and an elephant and a giraffe. Oh my goodness. This is a very tall tree with houses in it. And this is a building with lots of greenery. It's so beautiful. That city is no longer dreary. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed. But of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began. Wow! Look at that. The end. So if you ever think that one person can't make a difference, that's not true. You can make a difference. If you set your mind to something, you can definitely make a difference. Henrietta, did you like that story? Do you like this one? The Curious Garden? Did you like the pretty pictures? I hope you liked it. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.